welcome back to the Pylon Camp Podcast, episode 10. It's been a while. It's been about almost 2 weeks since I've done a podcast episode or any YouTube stuff. Basically why is because I started a new job, so trying to adjust to my new schedule, trying to figure out where to fit all of this stuff in. But I think I've got a hang on it now, so we should be back to normal. We should be back to getting content out as normal. The only bad news is we might have to do one podcast a week, but that's fine because the fantasy podcast usually gets broken down into little YouTube videos anyways. So if you want the fantasy content, that will be, I guess, exclusively on YouTube, but we might still put them out on Spotify. We probably won't do podcasts, but if we do podcasts, it will be on Spotify. But yeah, that's the update. That's where I've been. I just started a new job. But we're back. We are back. We're better than ever. We got a bunch of stuff that we're going to add to the channel. One thing that we're probably going to start doing next week, probably be every Monday, mock draft Mondays. We're going to start doing, we're over halfway through. We're about at the halfway mark in the NFL season. A lot of teams are just down and done. And for those teams, you look forward to next year because next year might be your team's first competitive year, might be your team's first rebuilding year. A lot of exciting stuff. So a lot of teams are looking forward to the 2022 season as much as teams are looking forward to the postseason of 2021. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get into our first topic of the week, and that is Odell Beckham and the Cleveland Browns. And why I wanted to talk about Odell Beckham and the Browns is because, if you follow the podcast, I'm not the biggest Baker guy. Not a big Baker Mayfield fan. I think he is one of the most overrated players in all of the NFL. I think that, sorry, I don't want my microphone to fall down. I just think that Baker Mayfield, he is not good. I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's an average quarterback. Do I think he is good enough for where the Browns are ready to go? Absolutely not. And I will sit here and take arguments for that all day because, like I said in the wee beginnings of the Pylon, the Browns do have the most complete roster, and a lot of people agree with me on that. I think that if you try to poke a hole in the Browns roster, the biggest hole to poke is at the quarterback position. And what is collateral if you have a bad quarterback? Bad receiver play. And I think the narrative about Odell Beckham that he's washed, he's done, his days of being a superstar are over, I think that's a bunch of baloney. And, the stats don't lie. The stats don't support me. But if you watch the tape of Cleveland Browns games, which I have been doing recently, Baker Mayfield just doesn't throw Beckham the ball. He does not throw him the ball. And, when Beckham was in New York and there was so much of, oh, he's a diva, he's a drama queen, he's punching field goal nets, he's doing all this, all that, he hasn't done that with the Browns. You can't really poke or point out one storyline or headline where Odell Beckham was doing something that he did in New York since he's been in Cleveland. He's been a good teammate. He's been a good player. He's kept his head down. He's gone to work every day. He's been a professional, to say the least. I don't blame him for being frustrated. I don't blame him at all for wanting to leave. And I think where, you could draw the line is when his dad gets involved and is posting videos and this, that, and the other thing. But I don't believe Odell Beckham's days as a superstar are over. I really don't think that. And if you just take a step back and remove Baker from the offense and just look at how this offense is operated under Kevin Stefanski, because there's two things about the Browns, one of them being Odell Beckham, the other being Baker Mayfield. They're two inherited players. The current GM and Kevin Stefanski did not draft Baker Mayfield, and they did not trade for Odell Beckham. And a lot of people, myself included, did not think Odell Beckham would be a good fit for Baker Mayfield and the Browns. You can't teach chemistry. That is why it's called chemistry. It's just a developed bond, and you either have it or you don't. And Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham never have made it. They don't seem like they ever will make it. And I really think the biggest reason why Odell Beckham wants out of Cleveland is Baker Mayfield, and he's being as polite and quiet as he possibly can about it. He hasn't, if you go back to his days as a Giant, he called out Eli Manning. He said Eli Manning isn't playing as well as we need him to be. He hasn't said that about Baker. He has not said that once about Baker. And Baker is by no means playing as well as they need him to be playing. So with Beckham, with the Browns, I think that, there's a reason why Jarvis Landry looks like he's the better receiver. If you are new to football and you just came into being a Browns fan, you're like, man, Odell Beckham stinks. And Jarvis Landry is our best receiver. It's not even a question. And it's because of how they play. I think there is something to be said of when you ask a player who is playing quarterback, you ask your quarterback to, get the ball to your star receiver that you just traded for. There is a lot of added pressure to that. There's a lot that goes into that where it comes down on Baker of I have to make it work. I have to make the best of the situation where really it's not a good fit. It's never been a good fit. So I was really pulling for Odell Beckham to get traded to San Francisco during the trade deadline. Unfortunately, this is probably the most boring trade deadline in a long time. There was really no moves besides the big Von Miller trade, which I'm very curious as to how that's going to play out. But I think that was a good move for the Rams. But to talk about Odell, I really do think that his days as a superstar Pro Bowl talent are not done. I don't think that there's anything that points to them being done. Last season he had the ACL tear. This season he's not doing anything. But has he ever been able to do anything with Baker? He wasn't hurt when the Giants traded him. He still was the same Odell that he was for New York. The only difference was Eli Manning wasn't throwing him the ball, and you could say what you want about Eli Manning at the back half of his career, but Baker Mayfield should have only gotten better, and this relationship should have only gotten better at the very least on the field. So that is where I stand with Odell Beckham and the Browns. I don't blame him. I think he and the Browns are doing, they can't waive him. You can't waive a player like that. I think it's interesting that they didn't trade him. I do believe, I could be wrong on this, but I do believe this is the last year of Beckham's contract. In which case it's a $9 million hit to the Browns if they do trade him. If they keep him for the rest of the year, and Kevin Stefanski has said, essentially Odell Beckham is no longer on the team. He's no longer a player for the Cleveland Browns. And I don't know if that means they're not going to scheme for him anymore. He hasn't showed up the past 2 practices as of today. But next year, if they do trade him and look to move him in free agency, if he does have one more year on his contract, it's a $9 million cap hit. So that kind of makes it more desirable for other teams, and you can plan. It's hard to sell a player like Odell with the cap hit you're going to take and not get the price you want. That's why I think the Browns didn't sell him, is because they wanted a better price, and it's hard for teams to make that move during the season. It's hard to make that draft pick or give up those draft picks or that player during the season when you really don't know what you're getting with Beckham. Is he washed? Is he not? I tend to believe he's not. Could he be? Absolutely, 100%. But that's all I'm going to say about Odell Beckham and the Browns. I think it's a very interesting story. I think it's still developing. I think that, definitely something to keep your eye on. I think the Saints were big buyers into him. I could see him going to the Patriots. They need a deep threat. They need a superstar wide receiver. But I think Allen Robinson is a way better fit for them. I think he's a way better fit for Mac Jones. I do think, though, that if anybody could rein in Odell Beckham, it is Bill Belichick. And there were the ties with Beckham and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady a few years ago. I think 2 years ago at this point. So we'll see. We'll see where Beckham goes this offseason. I think he still is a superstar. If you have him in fantasy, I would, in any dynasty or keeper league, definitely trade for Odell Beckham. Definitely get Odell Beckham. I think these past 3-4 years of Beckham being a decent average receiver are going to come to an end once he gets away from the Browns. Because really, where does he fit in that offense? Even if Baker was playing well, where does he fit in that offense? Because they don't throw the ball down the field. They just do not throw the ball. They're a run-first team, and they always will be as long as they have Baker Mayfield. But the next story I want to talk about, Mike White the Wise. Is Mike White the answer for the New York Jets? Now, when I say the answer, I'm not saying he's going to be better than Zach Wilson. I'm not saying he is better than Zach Wilson. But, the Jets have been struggling all year on offense. This kid comes in, he's been in the league for about 4 years, gets his first start, and he's already in Canton. He threw for 400 yards, had 4 touchdowns. And the Jets beat the Bengals. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that I subscribe to, if there is no tape on someone, it's more odds that team will win. The best example I could give is last year, the 12-4 Saints got upset by the Eagles, who finished with 5 wins, because there was no tape on Jalen Hurts. They didn't know what to expect from Jalen Hurts. And that was Jalen Hurts' best game of his career. Like, still, his best game of his career was his first game. So, I don't know what to make of Mike White. I think the offense looked way more efficient. I think it looked way better designed, because I think with Mike White, you kind of have the veteran presence of, I'm going to hit my checkdowns, I'm going to throw it to the running back. Where with Zach Wilson, he's trying to play hero ball every play and make the big play, make the flashy play, whether he's doing it or not on purpose. That's not the point. He still does have that tendency to try to hit a home run every time he throws the ball. So with Mike White, we now are seeing a Jets offense that has life. They scored points against the Bengals. They went down. They pulled off a Philly special. And it pains me that is even a thing, that the Philly special is even a thing. But they did it. They upset the Bengals, and it all was because of Mike White. The defense showed up, but Mike White went down and consistently scored points. He was consistently having the Jets either scoring touchdowns or in position to kick a field goal. He was operating the offense at a very, very high level that we have not seen Zach Wilson do. And again, this whole topic is not about Zach Wilson. It's about Mike White and the Jets. The Jets are in a peculiar spot, if that's the right word, because, where do they, if Mike White shows up today, it's Thursday, and beats the Colts, a good team. He already beat one good team, but now there's tape on him. Now people know what to expect. If Mike White comes out and beats the Colts, now you got a can of worms on your hands, because not saying that Mike White is the franchise guy, but do you let Zach Wilson sit behind Mike White and learn for the rest of the season? Plus, obviously you want to play every game to win. I do believe that, because you have players' livelihoods on stake, or at the stake, every single snap. Maybe not your wide receivers or your running backs, but the linemen. One person falls on someone and their career is over. Look at Nick Gates. His leg exploded because someone fell on him. And if the Giants were playing to lose that game, Nick Gates' career is pretty much over and he will never make another penny. But they were playing to win. That's why the Eagles got so much flack last year, is because they showed their own players that the organization does not care about them. That's the biggest takeaway for me. So for the Jets, you have to go out and win. Now, necessarily, do you want to win? No. You want the draft picks. But they have, right now, the Jets have I've been doing some mocks, so I should know this, but the Jets have, I believe, the 6th pick and the 11th or 10th pick. Maybe the 9th. But they have a lot of good options. So I think you want to keep winning. I think it's good for the franchise. I think it's good for the fan base. It's definitely well-deserved for the fans. They need to see some wins start to stack. But I think that, Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, a lot of Jets fans, I'm friends with a lot of Jets fans, being that I'm from New Jersey, but are already calling for Joe Douglas, and I don't see why. I think they're doing everything right. I think the Jamal Adams trade looks amazing, especially with that safety. I always forget his name. There's a safety that's projected to go top 5, and he is 6'5", moves so well, and he's a very good cover safety, and he's as good as Jamal Adams as a box safety. So they basically got rid of Jamal Adams. They're about to get a better Jamal Adams and 2 more picks. So I love that trade. I love that trade for the Jets. The Jets are going to be good. I think if Zach Wilson really does pan out, which I think he will, I think he will be a good enough quarterback to either, by the time the rebuild is done, you will know that Zach Wilson is your franchise guy, or you could just pick someone up and put them into this system, and it will work. So I think the Jets are in a very good spot. I think they're in a very good spot. Obviously, the number 1 pick for me, if I was picking for the Jets, is Evan Neal. I think that is number 1 on your draft board no matter what. Unless you're picking number 1, then you go Thibodeau or whatever, Kayvon Thibodeau. But you get another tackle to put with Mekhi Becton. You already drafted Elijah Vera Tucker. Your line looks good. Michael Carter looks very good. The running back position is completely revolutionized now that you have your pass catching back and your actual running back. Courtesy of the Cleveland Browns, they really started the revolution of this position. But they need that. They need their Nick Chubb, and Michael Carter looks like he's going to be a very good pass catching back. He has looked amazing the past few weeks. But again, tying this all back together, if Mike White wins tonight, do you sit Zach Wilson for the rest of the season is the question at hand. And I don't think that there is a wrong answer. I really don't, because you go with Mike White, you prove to your fan base, hey, we are out here to win games, and we want to win games. And playing Zach Wilson doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to win games, but it also tells your fan base, hey, we want this kid. We're not going to go anywhere this season. We want to develop this kid as much as we possibly can in year one so that when we're a better team offensively and defensively next year, they really need a wide receiver. They have Corey Davis, who's been playing better than I expected, but I don't think great. I don't even think he's playing really that well. But they really need a wide receiver. They missed on Mims, which is a bummer. But there's Olave's in this class if they want to get a wide receiver, and the other Ohio State kid. You could get wide receivers, really talented wide receivers in the second, third round. So, Terry McLaurin was a third round pick, I think. But yeah, you could hit a home run on a wide receiver at any point in the draft. But anyway, that's my spiel on the Jets and Mike White. I think Mike White is going to come back to reality this game. I've been pretty accurate with my quarterback takes this season. I was right about Taylor Heineke, which was my big quarterback take, along with Baker Mayfield, which I'm very much right about. Because you watch that show. Dude, it's Jay Will, Max Kellerman, and Keyshawn Johnson, and they did a segment of quarterback or who will be the quarterback of this team in 2022, and they were split on Baker Mayfield, and not to just keep going on about Baker Mayfield, but we're not going to talk about it. We'll talk about it later. But with the Jets and Mike White, I don't think there's any bad. I don't think it's a wrong choice to play Mike White. I think that he is going to come back to reality tonight. This is a very good defense. The Bengals have a very good defense, but now there's tape on them. So if Mike White balls tonight, he might be the real deal. I don't know. Then I don't know what you do with yourself, but I think the Jets are in a very good spot. Next story we're going to talk about is the future of the Arizona Cardinals. I think that if you listen to this channel regularly and you listen to this podcast pretty often, one thing that I have constantly said and pounded this on the table is that the Cardinals are the most talented team, but their coach does not offer them any sort of advantage. Cliff Kingsbury will never outcoach someone. I don't believe it. I just don't think he will. And here's the problem is, look at all these teams. We're going to talk about later on in the episode about Super Bowl windows, open or closed for teams. But with the Cardinals, obviously their window is open. I actually think I forgot to put them on the list, so we're going to talk about it now. The Cardinals' window is wide open. The issue is everybody else's window who's wide open either has a very good elite coach or has a very promising elite coach or will be elite coach. The Cardinals do not. Cliff Kingsbury was out-coached by basically Aaron Rodgers, by Matt LaFleur, and with an offense that had just Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and Randall Cobb. Old Randall Cobb. To me, that's a game you can't lose. That's a statement win. The Packers are better than I expected. I still think they're frauds. Their defense, as in their defense. But those are coaches you are going. That's a team you're going to see at full force come playoff time. The Cardinals are actually in that game. A lot of people said, "Oh, I can't." When they went through the power rankings, I can't knock the Cardinals for that loss because they're still the Cardinals. I can't blah, 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 blah about the Cardinals, blah, blah, blah. But the most eye-opening thing to me that nobody has talked about is that exposes Cliff Kingsbury. That 100% exposes Cliff Kingsbury. Because, coaching, I think if I have learned anything from this NFL season is how important coaching is and the difference that actual coaching can make. Because look at all of these teams that have had below average to okay, I'm not going to say below average, but average players that elevate them to a above and beyond level because of coaching. And let's look at teams that have above average talent and suck because of coaching. Prime example, the Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants both have above average talent and suck, and it is because of coaching. The Cardinals are winning games. Will they make it in the playoffs? They will win a game or two, but they do not have the most important advantage, and that is coaching. Coaching is the most important advantage you can have come playoff times. Andy Reid elevates that Chiefs team to another level. Now that people have caught up with the Chiefs. But that's how important Andy Reid was because here's the thing with the Chiefs, if you want me to get into this coaching thing, let's look at what they did the first 2 years. The shuffle passes, the off-script stuff. That was cutting edge revolutionary from a coach with a good quarterback. Now everybody does it, so they have no edge. There's nothing special about the Chiefs anymore besides Tyreek being really fast, and Patrick Mahomes is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. With the Cardinals, arguably, they are as talented as those two Super Bowl contending, Super Bowl winning Chiefs teams, but they're not. They don't have an Andy Reid. They have a Cliff Kingsbury who couldn't win in college with Patrick Mahomes. He couldn't win in college. So now you expect him to go to the NFL, to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl, and out-coach someone? Look, Sean McVay is one of a top 3 coaches in the NFL right now, and he got pooped on by Bill Belichick in that Super Bowl. I mean, Bill Belichick shut him down to 3 points. That's the difference of how important coaching is. Would Cliff Kingsbury ever out-coach Sean McVay, let alone Bill Belichick? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way. And he's done nothing to prove he can. That's my point. The most impressive thing that you could give Sean McVay credit to is the game that, I forget who they played, but the game he had COVID, and he scripted a few plays, and everybody's like, oh, Cliff Kingsbury scripted some plays, and they won the game. You script plays for the first quarter, and then you have no idea what the game looks like. You have no idea where the field position is, where the score is, how many timeouts you have left before the halftime. You can't script 4 quarters. You can't even script 2 quarters. Cliff Kingsbury is a joke. He is holding this team back. He will destroy this team in the playoffs. 100%. 100%. But that's my take on the Cardinals. Anyway, let's talk about the next team. Let's talk about Jordan Love. Is he the future of the Packers? We will find out tonight. I swear on everything I love, we will find out tonight. Because Peter Schrager, if we rewind the clocks to, let me think, 2017, 2018. The Chiefs still had Alex Smith. And, they draft Patrick Mahomes. And he sat behind Alex Smith for a season. But the whole time, teams heard, or reporters were reporting, man, this Patrick Mahomes kid is going to take the league by storm. Peter Schrager is, I think, the first person to be like, Patrick Mahomes is going to be something in this league. And my God, was he right. And that was in the first season. The first offseason. He was at training camp. These reports were coming out. Jordan Love has been on the Packers for over a year. Didn't even suit for a single game last season. And the only things we've heard from him were during the time this offseason where Aaron Rodgers was going to hold out. We haven't heard a lick about Jordan Love. Nothing. You have not heard nothing about Jordan Love. Tonight, this weekend, against a bad Chiefs defense, we will see what Jordan Love looks like. I mean, if he's the guy, and he could be the guy, I'm not expecting him to go and beat the Chiefs. But I am expecting him to, he has a year of watching under his belt, to at least not make as many mistakes as he should. That tells me, okay, he's been listening to Aaron Rodgers, they've been taking care of this kid, and he's the real deal. And it's going to be fine for the Packers. If he poops the bed tonight this this Sunday against the Chiefs, the Packers are in trouble. They are in a lot of trouble because now you have a kid you wasted a first-round pick or used a first-round pick on. I'm not going to say wasted because he hasn't done anything yet. But you used a first-round pick on him. You haven't let him suit for a game. He had a few snaps against the Saints week 1 where he fumbled. And this is your future. To me, I think that the Packers' luck has officially run out. They have had back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. They had another Hall of Fame quarterback in Bart Starr. And they had a Hall of Fame coach in John Lombardi. Now I think it's Matt LaFleur is a great coach. He's proven that. But do we really think they're going to go 3 back-to-back elite Hall of Fame quarterbacks? There's no if they do, everybody in the Packers organization better go to the lottery tomorrow or after Sunday because odds are they'll win. Because I think to hit 3 elite quarterbacks back-to-back I don't know what those odds are like, but that's like a 1 in a million. Anyway, I think Jordan Love, the story, and I promise you, come Monday, almost every show will be talking about Jordan Love. I promise you everybody will be talking about Jordan Love. Because this is a story that has, let's think about it. What is the news media's prime goal with anything? I don't even mean sports. With politics, with journalism, with anything. What is their goal? To develop a story, to make a story. We are in chapter 5, if that's like the midway point, of the Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, Packers saga. We are smack in the middle. Aaron Rodgers is going to leave next year. He has made that clear. Chapter 1 was all the drama of last season, and then carried over into this offseason. And now, we're seeing, actually this is kind of the climax. Can Jordan Love play? Can Jordan Love be the replacement, the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers? I don't think so. I just don't think. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible, but this kid played at Utah. He hasn't played in the NFL. He's getting his first start tonight. Now, granted, the Packers, I have to give the Packers credit where credit's due. They did right with Aaron Rodgers, even though they didn't play him for, 3 seasons? They let him sit behind Brett Favre. So I have to give credit to the Packers. They know how to groom a quarterback. I just think they thought they had more time with Jordan Love, and we'll see. I think that Jordan Love is in a very good position, being that he's with the Packers. They know what they're doing. They're a established, good, always relevant organization. But can this kid play? That is the question. Can Jordan Love play? Because my hunch is no. He can't play. Because my biggest question that I want an answer to is, why haven't we heard anything about him? We haven't heard anything about Jordan Love being elite in practice, or even in the time when he was in training camp and we were waiting to hear about Aaron Rodgers, what he was going to do. The only report I remember hearing is Jordan Love looks horrible in sevens. He couldn't even win in sevens. Him and Zach Wilson were the 2 quarterbacks that could not win in sevens. We were designed for the quarterback and the offense to win. I mean, sure, it's been a lot of time since offseason. He's gotten plenty more reps. He's gotten plenty more. The fire was kind of lit under his butt, but we still have no idea what this kid could do. Anyway, the next segment I want to talk about is which of these teams' Super Bowl windows are open or closed. And I think I put too many teams on this list, but we're going to talk about them each, not as in depth, but I think more so about the teams that are in Super Bowl windows versus out of them. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's talk about the teams that are still in a Super Bowl window. First team is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think their window is closing faster than some of these other teams. I think they are still within the Super Bowl window, though, for this season and beyond. But they are in shambles. They are as vulnerable as we have seen them in the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid era. I think that their defense is bleeding, and they have no way of stopping it. They have the most rookies in the NFL playing on defense. I'm pretty confident in that. I could be wrong. But they are hemorrhaging on defense. They still are averaging, I think, they're allowing 7 yards per play on defense. Now, that definitely changed because they just played the New York Giants, who can't move the ball to save their lives. But before last week, or Monday night, they were averaging 7 yards allowed per play. Now, they are still going down and scoring every single drive almost, but they are in trouble. They are in a lot of trouble this season. I would go as far as to say I don't think they'll make the playoffs this year, but is no way their Super Bowl window closed beyond 2021. I think they just need to find ways to adapt and to become relevant again. I think, as not relevant again, but to become potent again on offense, I think it's a better way. Plus, I think that if they get one more draft of defensive players, they're going to be in way better shape next year. Maybe make some free agency acquisitions. The problem is they're paying Patrick Mahomes more money than like almost Jeff Bezos. I'm obviously kidding, but they're paying him a ton of money, which is going to make it trouble to land superstar free agents for the money that they're going to be asking, because they're just. Sorry, I got a text. Their defense just sucks. It's so bad. It is so bad. Next team I want to talk about is the Green Bay Packers. So long as Aaron Rodgers is there, their window will always be open. But I think after this year, it's closed. It will 100% be closed. They're back to the drawing boards. And Green Bay has notoriously struggled to land free agents just because of where they are located in the world. Nobody wants to go to Wisconsin and play in the freezing, bitter cold. It's just compared to like Miami or Tampa or the Florida teams, but any of the other teams like New York, San Francisco, cities, nobody wants to go to Wisconsin. So I think that the Packers are in a lot of trouble. They are in a lot of trouble after the season, especially when Aaron Rodgers leaves, and especially if Jordan Love can't play. Then they are in boatloads. They will. Sorry, Packers fans, but you guys are in for a long ride. Dallas. So Dallas, I don't think anybody really understands or is grasping the magnitude of their win over the Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings have maybe one of the worst coaching staffs in the NFL, but they still won the game with Cooper Rush. And Kellen Moore, if he's not hired as a head coach next year, I don't know. That guy is a genius. I think the reason why we're seeing a different Cowboys team than normal is because how good Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore are. They're arguably the two best coordinators in the NFL. I mean, Dan Quinn turned around, and this is what I mean by good coaches make bad players good. This team didn't really make that many changes except for in the draft. Like, yeah, you got your first 2-3 rounds should be immediate impact players, but that's only 3 people. Yeah, 3 is a good number, but that's if you hit on all of them. And they have just completely revived this defense. Their offense is loaded. Dak is completing 70% of his passes, which is nuts. And they have no weakness. They actually have no weakness. I think their biggest weakness is Mike McCarthy, if you want me to be honest. I think he is the biggest. Because if you are a Cowboys fan, go ahead and comment, what does Mike McCarthy do on your team? Like, being serious, like, what does he do? He's not calling plays. He's not calling defense. What does he do? Call timeouts? Every time I watch a Cowboys game, he's just standing there with the same dumb look on his face like this. Like, I don't know what that dude does. Being 100% honest, I don't know what he does. Tampa Bay, I mean, they just won a Super Bowl, and their window's more than still open. They're 7-1. Tom Brady's. It's funny because it always blows my mind when people are like, "Yeah, I guess I have to say Tom Brady's the GOAT now after last year," and it's like, what do you mean you have to say it now? What has he done now that you could? Anyway, they're incredible. Leonard Fournette revived his career. I've always been a Fournette guy. I've always loved Leonard Fournette. I've always thought he was a good player. It didn't make sense to me why Ronald Jones was playing over him last year, and they fixed that in the playoffs and now for this season. He's elevated their rushing game. He's catching passes now. But it didn't make sense. That did not make sense to me. But yeah, they are definitely, their Super Bowl window is definitely still open. The Rams drafted Jared Goff and were like, yeah, we're never doing that again. Which is why they traded for Matt Stafford. I think that was the best free agency acquisition. I think that has to be the best free agency acquisition of 2020. Like, it has to be. It has to be the best one, because who has done more for their team than Matthew Stafford? If you have an answer, go ahead and comment. But dude, that guy has made the Rams offense on a different level. I mean, they don't have to even run play action and all that pre-snap motion stuff that had to do with Goff, because Stafford just drops back and throws an absolute nuke down the field, and it's a touchdown. I mean, every time. Cardinals window is open. I think it'll be even more open when they get a new head coach. I really hope they don't look at this season or like, oh yeah, Cliff Kingsbury's a good coach. Like, please do not do that. Please. If you are a Cardinals fan, you have a Twitter, please do not advocate for keeping Cliff Kingsbury. My God. That guy is a fraud. The Ravens window is beyond open. It will always be open as long as they have Lamar Jackson. I think that the most impressive thing about the Ravens is they are tied for first with most players on the IR, and they are still as dominant as they have been. I mean, how many teams have 16 people on the IR and are still a 3 seed in the AFC or in their conference? That's like, what this is my point with the Ravens. Like, what do they look like healthy? That is my big question. What does it look like next year when they have all their players back and Rashad Bateman has a year under his belt? And maybe they go out and sign Allen Robinson. I mean, Marcus Peters needs to play better. He really does, but they're missing their other best corner, and I'm forgetting his name. I always forget these people's names. They're missing their other best corner who tore his ACL before the season started. But the Ravens, we're seeing like a shell of what the Ravens could be, and it's still this good. So keep that in mind for next season. And then the Buffalo Bills. And before we go to the Bills, this whole ideology of Lamar Jackson will get figured out, he cannot get figured out. That someone like that, there's no answer. If you take away the pass, he's going to run. If you take away the run, he now can pass. So you tell me how they're going to figure out Lamar Jackson. Go ahead. The only way is to telepathically know if this guy is going to run or throw before the ball is snapped. Buffalo Bills, they need to really, I'm saying this being that the Super Bowl window is wide open, but they need to get a wide receiver too and stop dipping into free agency and just find someone. Like, Emmanuel Sanders is not it. AJ Green would have been a great signing for them. He's balling out in the Cardinals, but they need a wide receiver too. Like, Allen Robinson's out there. Odell Beckham is out there. I think that they do need that, but I really think more than that, they need a running back that is dependable. I really like Josh Jacobs to go to the Bills. I think that would be a fantastic free agency signing if they could pull him away from the Raiders. And then I did throw the Bengals in here. I don't know. I don't really think I could confidently say the Bengals will make the Super Bowl this year, but they have all the pieces, and if you give them one more draft, I think they could definitely make some noise next year. They need to get a better run blocking lineman. They need more run blockers because Joe Mixon is getting 20 carries a game and can't even get over 100 yards. They need run blockers. They've evolved in the pass protection game so much from last year, but they desperately need to fix their run defense, their run blocking, and I think they need a few more pieces on defense. I think they need another corner. And I think they could definitely use a better Mike linebacker. But these are my teams that Super Bowl window is open. Some of them more than others. Some of them more for next year and not this year. But let's talk about the teams whose Super Bowl window is closed. And some of these teams, like, either they weren't really Super Bowl contenders, so to speak, but after this year, they will definitely not be Super Bowl contenders. First team is Seattle. I think Seattle is done. I think the days of Seattle being a dominant franchise are over for a while. I think that with Russell Wilson inevitably leaving this offseason and Pete Carroll's unwillingness to adapt his game plan, I think Pete Carroll's gone. I think Russell Wilson's gone. I think they're going to start from square one. They got to blow it up. Minnesota Vikings, same thing. I think Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback. I think he can win games. He can't win Sunday night primetime games, but he can win games. He'll never lead you to the playoffs. This offensive line is abysmal. Mike Zimmer's going to get fired. Their GM might get fired. I think that after this year, it's done. I think this was their last year to even be playoff relevant, and that window has closed. The Titans, this makes note. So let's talk about the Titans for a second, because I have constantly seen people, and every time I see it, I can't help but open my mouth and say, why are you saying that? People think that the Titans are still going to be as good as they are without Derrick Henry. And yes, I haven't posted any content for 2 weeks. But the last time I posted content, I was saying Derrick Henry should be the unanimous frontrunner for MVP. And we are now going to see why Derrick Henry was the unanimous frontrunner for MVP. This team, people are like, well, Derrick Henry was able to run so much because they have a good offensive line. Okay, that's half true. The Titans have the 8th best run blocking offensive line. Their pass protection ranks 26th. So you're telling me, without their most valuable player, who has 75% of this team's touchdowns, and I don't even know how many yards for this team, they're going to be fine. Okay. With Ryan Tannehill having the worst season post-Adam Gase of his career. Okay. I'm down to be wrong, but I'm not. I know I'm not. No shot. The Titans are about to go on a fat losing streak. So let's see what their schedule looks like, because I'm sure it's going to be favorable, and everybody's going to be like, oh, Mike, you're an idiot because the Titans are still playing well. But let's see who they got coming up. Let's pull it up real quick. I got my phone out. Okay, they have the Rams, L. New Orleans, probably an L. Houston, win. New England, probably an L. Bye. Jacksonville, win. Pittsburgh, could be an L. Pittsburgh playing out of their mind. San Francisco, that'll be a good game. Miami and Houston. So let's see. 1 loss, 2 loss, 1 win, 3 loss, 2 wins, 4 loss. Toss-up game, would throw it as an L. 5 loss. So they'll go 4-5. 4 wins, 5 losses, being against 2 of the wins coming against Houston, 1 coming against Miami, and 1 coming against Jacksonville. So if they're in any other conference, they don't have 4 wins without Derrick Henry over the next 9 games. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. I'm saying the toss-up game that I gave them the toss-up is against the 49ers. Maybe they win that game. Maybe. The next team, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this window actually could reopen next year. It's definitely closed for this year, but if they get Aaron Rodgers, wide open. It is wide open. I don't know who they would trade for that would make it open next year besides Aaron Rodgers, but I'm trying to think. If the Giants were to move off of Daniel Jones, I could see the Steelers going after him. Not saying he would open their window, but it would be better than them flipping a coin and drafting a quarterback. Russell Wilson potentially could go to Pittsburgh. But I think that if the Steelers, who are the leading frontrunner to land Aaron Rodgers, believe it or not, maybe if they get Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not a bad quarterback, Mike Tomlin could turn him into a winner. He's still winning with Big Ben, who is literally a carcass. They may be able to win some games. I think this window is definitely closed for this season, but it can be definitely reopened next season, depending on how they play free agency and the draft. I know that we're pretty confident they're going to go heavy into the offensive line. They have the running back. They have the receivers. They really need to address their offensive line. And that's pretty much it. Quarterback and offensive line are their biggest weaknesses. And if they could make some magic happen and land Rodgers, teams, the Mike Tomlin is winning with Mike Tomlin is above 500, averaging less than 20 points per game. He is the only team in the entire league to do that. I mean, people don't talk about Mike Tomlin as much as they should. He is a fantastic coach. A fantastic coach. Chicago Bears, they never really were in a Super Bowl window because of the whiff on Mitch Trubisky, but they were playoff relevant, and I'm officially closing it. I think they have a very good chance of being relevant in 2 years, being that they're going to get rid of Matt Nagy. Justin Fields is going to be a good quarterback. He will be a good quarterback, I promise you that. And it's a bummer that Tevin Jenkins isn't playing because I think he really was going to be a good player for them. They need to address their defense in certain areas. They need cornerbacks. They kind of could use a safety. But offensively, they don't look to me, there's 3 cornerstones you need for building a franchise. You need the quarterback, which they seem to have. Their offensive line's not bad, and they now need so the quarterback is given, but they have the offensive line, which is 1. They need the coach, 2, and they need a superstar receiver, 3, which they could draft. Chris Olave looks like a fantastic wide receiver coming out of Ohio State, who Justin Fields has chemistry with. So depending on how they want to play their second round, because they gave their first round pick to the Giants, they could maybe draft hit a home run with this. And I'm like, again, they are in a good spot because I'm very against playing skill players before you have to. But what I mean by before you have to, before you're ready to compete. Unless you know you have someone like Terry McLaurin is someone I would pay no matter what, because he is unreal with no quarterback. But for instance, David Montgomery is great. David Montgomery is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He has 2 years before he needs to get paid, I think. He's drafted in 2019 or 2018. I think 2019. When it's time to pay David Montgomery, they do not have to, because they have Khalil Herbert, who is one of the best rookies running backs of this year, drafted in the 6th round. They are in a good spot. They have a good offensive line. They have the quarterback. They need the coach. They need the receiver, and they'll be all right. They will be competitive. Plus, after this year, the NFC North is wide open. Rodgers is leaving. The Vikings need to rebuild. It's wide open. Next team where I'm closing the window is the Browns. This is a team that could reopen next year. They need a quarterback. They need a quarterback. Whether that is Russell Wilson, potentially Deshaun Watson, potentially whoever they want, they need a quarterback that allows them to throw the ball, because that's going to make their already great running game better. Everybody expects them to run the ball, which is why their running game is so impressive. They don't expect anything else, and they still can't stop it. So, hey, get a quarterback. Browns are right back in AFC Championship contention, 100%. The 49ers, I think that they will be relevant. The problem is they're in the toughest division of football. Get a phone call. They're in the toughest division of football. They have a rookie quarterback. They're going to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo. And Trey Lance needs to develop. Now, with the NFC West, the Rams will be competitive and the Cardinals will be competitive. Seattle will not. 49ers will be competitive. I think Trey Lance is the real deal. I think there are 4 quarterbacks that I really think are the real deal from this class. Mac Jones being 1, Trevor Lawrence 2, Justin Fields 3, and Trey Lance 4. I think some of them need more time to develop than others, but they are good players. That's why this quarterback class was so appealing, and why 3 of them went top 3. And the other 2 went in the first round with just outside the top 10. So, 49ers is closed. I think it'll be open pretty sooner than a lot of the other teams on this list. And the Saints will be playoff relevant so long as they have Sean Payton, but they are in a pretty bad cap situation, and they have a huge question mark at quarterback. I think Jameis Winston was playing very well. They're missing Michael Thomas. This could be a team that the Super Bowl window is open next year when Michael Thomas is back, and Jameis Winston, if he kept playing how he was. Jameis Winston was by no means playing bad. By no means playing bad. And it sucks because he's a meme. And once you become a meme in the NFL, you're permanently viewed as a meme. Jameis Winston was not playing bad. Not playing bad at all. But anyway, those are my teams that Super Bowl window is open or closed. And then we're going to wrap it up with the most telling games of the week. I'm kind of going to burn through this. We're not going to do call your shots this week. I kind of had to throw this podcast together pretty quickly. But anyway, let's get into the most telling games of the week. First game. The New York Giants at Arrowhead against the Chiefs. Okay. We're going to talk mostly about the Chiefs. Talk some about the Giants. What happened to the Chiefs' red zone offense? What happened to Tyreek Hill scoring a touchdown 18% of the time he touched a football? Where did that go? Where did Travis Kelce go? This team, if they want this game screams to me the most of why I put it in here. The Chiefs will miss the playoffs. That sounds crazy, but I really think they will miss the playoffs. And here's why. Their defense is hemorrhaging. It is hemorrhaging yards and points. Of course the Giants can capitalize on it because of the Giants. However, the Giants held them to 20 points. They held them to 1.5 yards per attempt in the red zone. If this team wants to make the playoffs, their offense can never have a game like this for the rest of the season. They can't do it. They cannot do it. Because other teams will be more aggressive, not as conservative as New York Giants. I really think if they played Mike White and the Jets, they would have lost. If they played, potentially, Jacksonville, they might have lost. Teams that aren't scared and have nothing to lose. The Giants, for whatever reason, are scared and have everything to lose and are the most conservative team in the NFL. I am ready to admit the Chiefs might not make the playoffs, and my take is they will not make the playoffs. I know that I'm going to get flamed for that, but give me a reason besides Patrick Mahomes being Patrick Mahomes why they will make the playoffs. Because I cannot think of one. Their record is 4-4. And they have the hardest schedule in the NFL for the rest of the season. I'm going to pull it up. I kind of pulled this stuff up beforehand. But anyway, I'm going to pull it up. And let's look at this. Okay, come on, load. This is their schedule for the rest of the season. And I'm going to tell you how many games I think they win. Green Bay against Jordan Love. If Jordan Love can play, they might lose this game. If he can't, they'll win. So that's one win. The Raiders, divisional game, anything can happen. And if I'm betting, I'm putting my money on the Raiders because their offense is going to destroy the Chiefs' defense. Like, absolutely destroy the Chiefs' defense. So, 1-1. Dallas, 1-2. Lost my spot. They go into a bye. Chiefs are good off a bye. But they play Denver, another divisional game. Put them at 2-2. Raiders at home, giving them an L. I think they get swept by the Raiders. 2-3. The Chargers, who beat them already, 2-4. Pittsburgh, who is playing very well and has a very good defense, and their offense has life. And, what are the Chiefs the worst in the NFL at? Stopping the run. Who is the best running back in the 2021 rookie class? Najee Harris. Potentially 2-5. Cincinnati, potentially 2-6. And Denver, 3-6 over the next 9 games. And that is if they stay healthy. The Chiefs might finish 7-10. I think their ceiling, if I were to flip any of these games, let's say they split with the Chargers and Raiders, that puts them at, quick math, 9-7. No, 9-8. I do not see the Chiefs making I don't think 9 wins gets you into the playoffs in the AFC. Maybe you get into the wild card, and the Chiefs will be a good playoff team because they have Andy Reid, they have Patrick Mahomes, and the whole team that has Super Bowl experience. They will know what to expect come playoffs. The problem is they got to make it. And I can't definitively say or realistically say they are for sure going to make the playoffs. And I think that with how their schedule plays out, they aren't going to make the playoffs. They will not make the playoffs. Can't say it enough. And talking about the Giants, we won't say anything about the Giants. They're the worst coaches in the NFL. It's not even close. I feel so bad because like I just said that once you're a meme, you're always a meme. And Daniel Jones will always be a meme in the NFL. He always will be until he starts winning games. But the poor kid has the worst coordinator in the NFL. He's the most conservative, borderline worst head coach, in-game time management, timeout management head coach in the NFL. He has the 30th or less ranked offensive line again, and all the players that were supposed to come back from injury or they signed are hurt. This kid is playing for his third straight year with a second-string offense, and people actually think he is a problem. With how much John Mara cares about this team, I don't understand why they are allowing what they allowed to ensue. And a lot of Giants fans want the head of Dave Gettleman, which I understand. But this is the first year where I'm like, it's really not Dave Gettleman's fault. Everything you asked for, you put on your shopping list, Dave Gettleman went and got, except for offensive line depth, which he should have definitely gotten. That's where I will point my finger at Dave Gettleman. But I really think the person who said we don't need it was Joe Judge. Because every time he was asked during the offseason, his answer was, we are seeing things you are not. And to his credit, the Giants' offensive line, when healthy, with Andrew Thomas, Nick Gates, Shane Lemieux, was playing very well. But where I will push back and say coaching is terrible is how on God's green earth does Nate Solder play snaps? When you have Matt Parrott playing league average at left tackle, who came in off the bench, how have you not had him at right tackle all season long? I don't get it. I don't. The Giants are pathetic. They were just a pathetic team. Anyway, let's talk about the next team. The next game, excuse me. And that was the New England Patriots at the Los Angeles Chargers. My first takes about this on this podcast, on this channel, were about the New England Patriots. I have, for now close to 10 weeks, 11 weeks, said that the Patriots are ready to compete for the playoffs now. They are ready now. Now, all of a sudden, oh man, maybe they are ready for the playoffs. Like, no, duh. They are ready to compete in the playoffs. They have the best coach of all time. They fixed, or not even fixed, they got all of their missing players from 2020 back, and they hit a home run in the first 3 rounds of the draft. And you guys thought they weren't ready to compete for the playoffs now? Nobody said they were going to win the division, but they are literally a wide receiver away from being one of the best teams in football. I swear it on everything I love. People need to stop with this whole narrative. And I get the media needs a narrative. That's how you get views. That's how you get clicks. That's how you get this. That's how you get that. That's how you get paid. But let's just stop with the Bill Belichick needs Tom Brady bullcrap. It's not true. It's never been true, and it never, ever will be true. It will not be true. No matter how much you hate the guy, it's never going to happen. That narrative will never come to fruition. It won't. And for the Chargers, in my opinion, the Chargers have the brightest future in the NFL. They do. They 100% do. They're ready to compete for a Super Bowl now, potentially. They have the left tackle. They have the wide receivers. They have the quarterback. They have the coach. They have the coordinators. They are ready. They need a middle linebacker. They need to be able to stop the run up the middle, which is how the Patriots beat them. But they are ready. These are both two very competitive teams that will be the top of the AFC for a long, long time. They will be at the top of the AFC for a long time. If you want my take, if you want my prediction, I think the Patriots are going to go out and sign Allen Robinson in free agency. I think that is the last piece this team needs. I really do. They need a few corners. Every Bill Belichick team has always had corner depth. They could use an edge rush. Matthew Judon is probably the second best free agency signing of 2020 or 2021. But this team is 100% ready. They are ready. Both of these teams are ready. People need to stop sleeping on the Patriots. People need to stop talking crap about Bill Belichick. But anyways, guys, that is going to do it for the Pylon Cam podcast, episode 10. Thank you for coming back. Sorry it's been a while. Everything's settled. I'm basically going to post all of our Instagram content today for the week. So keep an eye out for that. If you're listening on Spotify, our Instagram is at @the_Pylon_Cam, and our Twitter is at @Pylon_the. Check out our YouTube channel, the Pylon Cam. Yeah, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. Next week, all of the content should be back to normal. Might take a little bit more to ramp up, but all of the main videos will be back. There probably will be one podcast next week, but the fantasy podcast will be broken up into pieces, into short videos. I'm going to try to do it throughout the week. I think that'll be better for the channel rather than posting 2 videos in the same day. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we will catch you in the next video. Peace.